going on, guys? Wednesday, middle of the week. Hey, what's up, Chris? Sorry, I was running a couple seconds behind there. Give everybody an extra minute or so to join in. Hey, what's up, Jay? Hey, Jay, I'll give you a call after. I know you called me, texted me a couple times. Just been running a little bit behind schedule and everything today, so I'll shoot you a call as soon as we wrap up in here tonight. Fair enough? As long as you're still awake. What's up, Juan? And I got your email. We'll be sending you some additional letters tomorrow for you to take a peek at. You guys let me know if the stream's running smooth. What time do we got here? 7:01. Give another minute or so. And then we'll talk about federal prison fears, the fear of going to federal prison. I guess technically it could be the fear of going to prison in general, whether it's federal or state. If it's your first time going to prison, can be quite the scary thought. And we're going to put Zachary in timeout. All right, Zachary, you've been put in timeout. Hey, what's up, Shannon? What's up, Kimberly? Chris, your stream always seems to not be working right. Does anybody else have any stream problems? Hey, Scott, how are you doing? Downtown Louisville, huh? So you guys are all having streaming problems, not running right? That is so frustrating. Juan, how is your stream running? And Shannon, how is yours running? Juan's is running good. What's up, Brian? Yeah, I know, about 10 o'clock. I did that intentionally. I figure a lot of the East Coast watch, and late at night seems to be when a lot of people have anxiety and a little bit of stress ridden through the night. So I figured, why not do the videos when people are getting a little bit anxious and they can't sleep? Well, it looks like it's freezing up a little bit again. Medea voice? I missed it. What did Shannon say? Medea, is that a movie or a cartoon? Either way, I haven't seen it. All right, so we're going to get started here in a second. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, like my channel, share my channel. If you have not already, check me out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. As you can see, it's basically all of those are just at rdapdan, so it should be pretty easy to find me. Send me a friend request, and I will definitely accept. Nice idea. I stay up till midnight anyway. All right, awesome. All right, so let's kind of jump into this a little bit here, guys. Welcome to Federal Prison Time with rdapdan. And tonight we're talking about federal prison fears, or prison fears in general. This normally is going to apply to those people that are more than likely going to prison or federal prison for their first time and maybe haven't been before or haven't spent any time or any length of time in county. So the thought of going to federal prison, once you've actually accepted the fact that you're in trouble, you're not going to be able to possibly get out of it, and you're actually comprehending that you're going to go to prison, that thought can be very, very overwhelming. Mostly because of what we see on TV and the media and, different TV shows. A lot of those shows, we've all watched them before, Oz or Locked Up Abroad or, Shawshank Redemption or just prison reality shows, prison movies, whatever it is. We've all got this concept of what we feel that prison might be like. And it says I am offline. Stream is continuing. Are you guys losing me here, or is it running okay? I hope we don't have another night like that again. All right, so going to prison is, for most of you, not going to be at all like what you see in the movies or on TV. But the thought of it, you hear about it all the time, especially when there's large indictments with a lot of white-collar criminals. A lot of the times, the targets of these crimes, the targets of the indictments, of the cases, you'll hear about them either committing suicide or trying to flee the country. That's why, obviously you have to turn in your passport. If they feel like you have strong ties to other areas, sometimes they'll remand you into custody because they feel like you're going to, take off, you're a flight risk. And, I can understand that if you're looking at, 20, 30 years, but a lot of you that are looking at pleas of anywhere of 24 months to 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you start thinking these worst case scenarios like your life is over and you don't know what to do. And you think it's going to be like what you see on TV, in a complete danger zone. Now, there are plenty of dangerous prisons, and there's so many different types of scenarios that can really apply to what makes prison dangerous. Chances are, if you're going to a camp or a low, there's really not going to be a whole lot of risk factor as far as the danger setting. If you're going to a camp or a low, you guys have heard me talk about it a lot. It's pretty laid back. It's pretty relaxed. If you go in there and you do what you need to do and you've got a plan and you're looking into, studying, taking classes, reading books, taking advantage of the workout routines that are there, you're not going to have much of an issue. There's next to no violence, very little fights, not a whole lot of issues as far as that goes on. There's plenty of things to do from walking the track to taking tons of different classes that you can really maximize the amount of time that you're going to do in the way that you're going to do it. So you can maximize your time to where at the end of every day, you're going to be exhausted, tired, ready for bed, and then you repeat the next day. More or less, you're going to have a very similar routine that's going to be day in and day out. And the good thing is that's going to make your time fly. So if you've got a couple of years, 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, and then, maybe you have the opportunity to take RDAP and you've got the additional halfway house, you've got your good time, that time can really get eaten up pretty quick to where you're like, I can't believe I'm already just about done. So now if you're going to possibly be going to a medium security, medium or a pen, so you've got your camp, low, medium, pen. If you're going to be going to a medium or a pen, a little bit of what you see on TV becomes more of a potential reality. There's likely going to be more violence. You've got people in there with life sentences that may not have anything to really lose, so they really don't care if they get in additional trouble. And then if you're going to be cooperating, if you're going to be doing 5K1s or you're looking at potential Rule 35 or any substantial type of cooperation, if you're going to be cooperating and you're going to be going to a medium or a pen, when you get there, and we've spoken about these before, we've got specific videos on these topics. If you're going to be going to a medium or a pen, you're going to get a certain amount of time once you arrive there where other guys are going to come and ask you for your paperwork, your PSR specifically. They're going to ask you for your paperwork. They're going to want to see what your charges are. They're going to want to see if you have sex offense charges. They're going to want to see if you told on anybody, 5K1, cooperation, things like that. And if you do have any of those issues, there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to walk the yard the way you want to. You may not be able to eat at certain tables. You won't be able to hang out with certain people. You won't be able to use certain TVs. You may have to check into the SHU, the special housing unit, which is like solitary confinement for your own protection until they ship you to a different prison. And then once you get to that different prison, that process can typically start all over again. So if you think you may be going to a medium or a pen and you're considering doing a K1 or any type of cooperation, definitely take that into consideration. Go over that with your attorney. A lot of the times, the attorneys aren't really too up to speed on how this part of it works. They may be under the impression that they're never going to see your PSR because technically you're not allowed to have your PSR in prison, but I can promise you if you're going to a medium or a pen, you're going to have to find a way to get it in there because they're going to want to see it. And if you don't show it to them, it's just as bad as being guilty and you're going to check in. I've heard of stories of guys paying for services to get PSRs created for them, like a mock-up PSR, having it sent in to see if that works. That's an option. I don't know how good they are, if they work, or if they're going to check into it deeper, but you definitely need to know about this prior to going in. Let me close these blinds. Sorry, that was kind of nailing me in the face there. So it can create issues for you. But if you're going to a camp or a low, guys, you really don't have a whole lot to worry about other than, you're going to be doing time, you're going to be away from your family, away from your friends. But the anxiety that you guys get attacked by, thinking about these awful thoughts, potential suicide, things like that, you've really got to shake this off and understand where you're going is not the end of the world. Life does continue. Mark, hey, Mark, how are you? Mark Rydell's asking, what prison did I go to? I went to Coleman Low. Coleman is in Central Florida area, and it's actually the largest federal prison facility in the United States. They've got a camp, a low, a medium, and 2 pens. I was at the low, so I was fortunate enough not to have to go anywhere that was violent or politic ridden, where whites and blacks were not allowed to hang out. Where I was at, you could do pretty much whatever you wanted to do. Hang out with who you wanted to hang out with, work out, sit at different tables. I've pretty much hung out with anybody and everybody while I was in federal prison. Scott Attic asked if I ever got in a fight in prison. I didn't actually ever get into a fight, Scott. Came into a couple of, exchanging words, but I was able to reel my emotions in and realize that, hey, I'm trying to get into RDAP, trying to get this year off, trying to go home as soon as possible, and didn't allow it to fuel any further and just ended up walking away from the couple of situations that I almost entered into. Not a big fan of getting into a fight. Even in school, I wasn't one to, go really engage in that type of environment. So it was weird being in a prison environment where everybody's running their mouth and you see very little fights. Most people don't want to fight. Most people fight out of the egging on from the crowd. Oh, he said this, or oh, he said that, or oh, you let him talk to you like that. You'll notice it. It's the group of people that are usually behind you that are getting into your head. And you watch a lot of these stupid things on Facebook and YouTube where these young kids are getting into fights. And the one thing you'll notice is usually a group of people egging it on, filming it. And those are people that we consider to be our friends. So, you got to try to avoid situations like that and avoid those types of people because, if you want to change the way you are, you got to change your people, place, and things, man. So it's not always easy to walk away from something. But at the end of the day, you want to get in, do your time. You go into prison by yourself, you're coming out by yourself. So nobody in there is really your friend in the end. Let's see here. Let's see if I can read some. How's minimum security, Johnny? Minimum security, when you say minimum, I'm assuming that you're referring to a camp because a camp is like the lowest you can go. It's going to be no big deal, man. You just got to stay out of shenanigans. You're not going to have violence following you around, causing trouble. It's going to be the stupid things like smoking cigarettes, playing with cell phones, trying to sneak out of the prison. If you're in a camp and there's no fence, people might try to, people do. They leave. They go meet with their girlfriends or whoever in hotel rooms. They go do their thing, and then they actually come back. They sneak in and out. There's not a whole lot of guards patrolling around a camp. So people make these mistakes all the time, and they get away with it several times, and they might get away with it the entire time. But you get caught once, you're in a lot of trouble. You're definitely going to get booted up custody to where you're going to end up going to a low. You're probably going to lose some good time. If you're in a program like RDAP, you're going to lose that. You're going to lose the potential extra halfway house you might qualify for. So there's a lot of consequences that could follow you from making those type of irrational decisions would probably be the best way to say it. Hi, Dan. I followed you on Twitter. Can you also follow me? Yes, Mark, I will jump on there when we are finished, and I will look for you and follow you back. I do not access my Twitter very often. I think a lot of these videos and other things upload to Twitter automatically. Settings. So I don't go on there intentionally too often, but I will make an attempt to go on there after this video, and I will follow you, Mark. Appreciate you. Those of you that found me through Twitter and other places other than YouTube, that's really cool, and I appreciate you guys subscribing. So I was terrified thinking about going to prison. If you watch my very first video, where I had, the really full beard. That beard was intentionally grown out because I figured, hey, if prison's anything like it is on TV, I don't want to go in there looking like, any type of a pretty boy. So, I had gained a bunch of weight, and not muscle weight, like just, chunky. I gained a bunch of chunky weight. I grew out a big Grizzly Adams beard. I had my head bald. I just figured that nobody would want to take advantage of the overweight, smelly, bearded guy, if you pick up what I'm putting down. But when I got there and saw that wasn't the case at all, I was like, give me a fucking razor and let me shave off this grizzly bear that I'm wearing on my neck. Paperny says, in Facebook, Beckley, West Virginia is closing their RDAP program. My lawyer says that is no surprise, as a lot of low drug offenders are got out. If it's perhaps easier to get into RDAP now. Most places, I wouldn't say it's easier or harder. I would say, I have heard that a lot of places are closing down RDAPs, but at the same time, you hear a lot of places that are reopening RDAP or opening an RDAP into a new facility. So when one closes, usually another one opens. And usually if it's closed, it's for, a strategic purpose. But I can definitely check into that. Are we online, guys? I keep seeing it pop on and off. Are you guys coming and going? Is it losing signal on you guys? Quite aggravating. It only does this at nighttime. When I do the daytime videos, or it only happens at night. So you guys let me know. Post in here every now and then if it's gonna flag out on you guys. Jay, do they have TVs or just one in the room? They have TV rooms, Jay. You usually got multiple TV rooms within your unit. Like, we had one big room, which we called the day room, and it was pretty decent. Like, you could fit 150 people in there, and they had about 6 or 7 TVs in there, all playing different things. And you had your headphones on, so you could go sit in front of any TV you wanted, just tune into the station. Then they had other private TV rooms. Some of them had no headphones, so it was just for people that didn't have headphones. They could go in there and watch the TV. They've got the white TVs, they got the Spanish TVs, they've got the black TVs. Even though there's not a lot of politics, there's still different minorities that are into watching certain things that are usually going to be on in a certain room. So it's not official to where it's like in the BOP it says, all right, this is the black TV. It's just kind of claimed, and it's just always been like that. And it doesn't mean you can't go in there. I used to go in there and hang, like during a lot of the sporting events, depending on what was on, I used to go in there, and sometimes I was the only white guy in a room full of brothers, and got along just fine. And you'll find that you'll do your time a lot easier if you try to engage in hanging out with anybody and everybody, because you're going to find by doing that, you're going to get to know people, and it's going to help you do your time. It's going to help your reputation. It's going to help you amongst the yard. You might be out in the yard, and somebody from your unit is now introducing you to other people in other units from other races, and it just kind of gives you a little bit more freedom. You can go just do really whatever you want with whoever you want once you get known around the compound. So it's not a bad thing. Do they have Fox News? They have one. They have pretty much cable TV. It's like we had Direct TV, and pretty much everything other than they got rid of Showtime and HBO. But everything other than that, they have all the different news channels. You might have to get up to be there first to put on whatever news channel you want to watch or listen to. But they've got pretty much everything as far as sports, news, you name it, TV shows, you name it. It pretty much plays everything. I missed my comment. Lots of peep hate on Fox News. Well, you've got Democrats and Republicans across the world, and you can't please everybody. But the thing is, in there is you definitely don't want to go in there, really. You want to kind of stay away from the religion and the politics unless you're trying to engage in that kind of a debate, which turns in 99% of the time turns into an argument, which can lead to other altercations. The TV rooms are by far the most dangerous rooms in prison. That's where most violence will start from. It will start from something stupid, somebody changing the channel, somebody thinking that they had a program that they were going to watch and they had it reserved. There's no reserving the TVs. The CEOs aren't going to come in and say, oh, this TV's reserved. Major sporting events are always going to trump everything. If there's the finals or the playoffs or, whatever it is, whatever's going on with the sports world is always going to trump almost everything else. Don't discuss politics in jail. Correct. Yeah, it's a waste. Unless you're that type of person that likes to argue, that's what will happen if you start engaging into that. But prison does not have to be a horrible experience. It can be just that. It can be an experience instead of this horrible thought that we create it into being. Prison can be something that you learn from. It can be something that you experience from. It's not something that everybody gets an opportunity to do. And it's not like you're going to go there forever. There is a release date. Most people that are going in are going to be released at some point. So you're taking this time to really reinvent yourself, redefine who you are, find out what your character flaws are, and work on them. We've all got issues to work on. If anybody in this room doesn't think they have any issues to work on, then that you're probably the one that needs the most work. Once you start identifying your flaws and you're able to see them for what other people see them for, you can really start to expose that nerve and work on it to the point where you're still always going to maybe have some issues, but it's going to be more in your awareness. You're not going to be so blind to what you struggle with. It's a huge, huge key to getting through prison. And because you're surrounded and live with people 24/7. So your pet peeves, your awkwardness, whatever it is that people get to know about you, once they get to know you, it's going to get exposed in prison. And once it gets exposed in prison, you either have the opportunity to work on it or you go in denial and you just keep looking for the next person until they get to know you, and then you're on to the next person again. The best way is to just try to humble yourself, get in there and realize that you're here. There's a bunch of other people that are here with you. You're going to meet guys that have been down for decades, that have trickled through the system. They've come down from the pen, the medium, to the low, to the camp, wherever you're at. You're going to meet guys that have been down for a very long time. And it's going to really make your stay in prison seem so insignificant to where you're going to go to yourself, why was I complaining about this? This guy has got more years than I have months in prison. I've met guys that have been down for 30, 40 years. It's like all they know. They don't think about the outside. They don't communicate with people on the outside because there's no point. That is their world. There is no release date in the near future for them. So they have to take this and embrace it and make it the best possible life that they can. Where most of us, we have a release date. We're thinking about, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I'm going to be done with this. So you're already starting to think about getting released. So your mind is still on the other side of the fence. So there's a big difference between that and somebody that is locked down for a very long time. I'd like to see an interview about prison fears from someone who went to a medium or a pen. Yeah, man. The problem is not a lot of people want to, one of the biggest things that I would say one of the biggest gripes that I get from I don't know, haters, whatever you want to call it, is you got sentenced to 4. This is what will say to me. I've heard this from other prison consultants. What do you know about federal prison? You went in for 42 months and only served 13 months. So how can you possibly give anybody any insight on what federal prison is? And my response is, you're fucking exactly right. So why am I doing a YouTube channel and not you? So those guys out there that have done all of this time, why aren't they making more of an effort to give back and let people know what it's like, do's and don'ts, and what to worry about and what not to worry about? I wish there were more people doing it. And honestly, I'm really surprised because there's a lot of beautiful minds in prison. Not everybody that goes to prison is some, Neanderthal thug or whatever it is. There are people that are brilliant in prison that identify the gapping flaws from the time that you get indicted, from the time that you actually start going through the prison term. There's so little guidance in that gray area, like what to expect in prison, how to prepare for RDAP, how to prepare for your PSR, how to get letters ready, what is the actual stay in prison going to be like, what are the best things to do and not do in prison to make your time go better. There's such a need for it, and there's really a very small handful of services that are offered on preparation. There's some guys that try to help that have never been to prison, and they try to just give some insight, and you got to give those guys props because, at least they're trying. And then you got a handful of prison consultants that have been down. Michael Santos would be a great guide, and he's probably got videos on that. And I'm sure if you reached out to him and asked him, he would probably definitely give you, because he spent time in pens, mediums, lows, and camps. So he spent time in every level facility there is. So he would be a great guy for you all to reach out to and ask those exact questions to. But at the end of the day, most of you are going to be going to a camp or a low. So that's who my target audience is. But I think it's a super important question, what you just said. Why aren't more people doing it? Don't know. It's not very hard to turn on your camera and start talking. When you want to get into the editing aspect of it and all of that, yeah, that can be a little time consuming, but man, to go live, you just turn your camera on and go, talk about whatever you want. And if people are interested, to listen. There you go, Brian. Juan, you're a trip, brother. You are a trip. Guys, I've never claimed to be the end-all, know-it-all expert. I definitely feel that over the course of, the last year, I've become well more equipped with handling questions and understanding because of a lot of the research that I've done since I've been out, and a lot of the people that I stay close to that are still involved, from reentry services to people that are working within the prison system to guys that are still in, that are all over the place. I've got clients that are in the mediums. I've got clients that are in the pens, and to be able to get feedback from them on how different it is. While I was in the halfway house, I met a lot of guys that have been down for a very long time, and listening to their stories were completely opposite of my experience in prison. My experience in prison was good. It wasn't a bad experience. I missed home. I missed my kids. I missed, doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But the discipline that I was able to teach myself and the things that that I was able to accomplish that I probably would not have had the desire to do without going into federal prison. I think it's huge. I think it was a huge benefit for me to go through the federal prison system the way I did. I wouldn't want to go through in a rough, crazy, dangerous setting, even though it would be great to talk about that. But who wants to actually live that lifestyle? Not me. I was happy the way that I got to do it. I wrote a letter every single night. I read a little bit of the Bible every single night. I read a little bit of Tony Robbins every single night. And I made this a routine. And when I say every single night, guys, like no lie, I wrote a letter home every single night from the day I got to prison until the day I left. I wrote a letter Monday through Sunday, and then every Sunday I would mail all of those letters home. So every Sunday night I would go write my last letter, stamp it up, go drop it in the mailbox, and that would go home. I did that every single week, week in, week out, and it helped me keep my mind very stabilized. And now, going back, this has been over 2 years now since I've practically been out, rereading these letters. So it makes the letters almost 3 years old from the time I started these letters. Reading the letters of where my state of mind was then versus where I might be now, it's a very, very surreal, weird reality reading those letters, because it brings you right back. Like, there's so much that I've already forgot, but when I read those letters, it brings me right back to that moment. So for those of you that are going into federal prison, writing to yourself or to friends or family, writing in a diary or a journal is very therapeutic for later on as well. And it's not hard to commit yourself to writing. I would write anywhere from a page to 2 pages every night, but even if you're going to write just a paragraph or an entry, if you just do it every single day, and then once a week, mail it home. It gives your family or whoever you're sending it to something to read, interesting, and they save it for you. When you get out a year later, you go back through it. So these things are what helped me do my time. The exercising that I did, the classes that I was taking while I was in there, the awesome people that I met, really good group of guys that were on the same level as me, had the same type of aspirations. They didn't want to come back into the system. They were trying to make differences and changes with their life. And a lot of those guys are out to this day doing great things, from acting to running gyms. You know, there was a guy in there that he became became a certified trainer, and now he's one of the biggest trainers in Miami at an amazing gym that he's actually incorporated a lot of the prison workouts that he was teaching in prison. He now does them in this gym, and it's just taken off. So there's so much that you can do with the experiences that you learn in prison that will carry over into your real life if you want it to. What's up, Billy Gomez? And here's Billy, what you spent time in, what, medium or pen, Billy? Or were you all over the place? Pen, medium, low, camp? Because I know you were in feds, but I forgot which security level. So if you guys want to, get some insight from somebody that knows what those prison fears can be like, the guy that you see talking in the room right now, Billy Gomez, he's done some time. He's even got a YouTube channel where he talks a little bit about ins and outs. Billy, it'd be great if you did a video on the fears of federal prison, because for me, the fear of federal prison is, for where a lot of these guys are going, the fear is manifested. They create this fear that doesn't really exist, to where you may have gone to a medium or a pen. That fear is a very, very real thing, real to where your life can be on the line daily. Say the wrong thing, bump into the wrong person, change the TV channel at the wrong moment. You never know, what could be poked into the back of your neck. So I think somebody like Billy has the ability to really give that insight with firsthand experience. I know that stuff goes on, but it doesn't mean as much to you guys hearing something from me that I didn't experience myself versus hearing it from somebody that did experience it, and seeing how Billy's experience has him in a different mindset now than my experience and what mindset that has me in now. So prison affects people in different ways, but the one thing I can tell you is when you are released from prison, it is important to try to disassociate yourself from the prison mentality, because you don't have to live that way where you're nervous about everything, where you're looking over your shoulder, where you're worrying about somebody mean mugging you. You got to learn on the street to let that shit go, because the same code that's in prison does not live in the common world unless you live in that type of a street level mentality. But if you're surrounding yourself with good people, and you're surrounding yourself with people that aren't looking to hurt you or take advantage of you, you have to be able to lower your guard and let people in. Because if you can't let people in, you can't grow. You're stopping yourself from growing. And it's so easy to say, well, that's just the way I am. That's just the way I am. It's easy to not try. It's easy to give up. It's easy to make excuses. It's fucking hard to put in that effort, and it's hard to let people in sometimes. It's hard to lower your guard, but that's the only way we can really feel and experience. Like when you see somebody in a relationship that's been burned in a relationship, maybe they've been cheated on 1,000,000 times, or like, that's it, I'm never trusting anybody again. Well, you're the one that's going to ultimately suffer, because you're not going to be able to experience that high that you get from a magical relationship. Even if the potential is you're going to get burned again, man, you gotta feel, you gotta have those nerve endings exposed, or else you're not going to feel shit. And you become numb, you become jaded, you become kind of miserable. And some people on the verge, I see Billy on Facebook, and I see your post on there, Billy. And sometimes I'm like, man, you can tell you've been through a lot, and you still, but you're trying, at least you're talking about it. You're putting it out there. You're trying to make it known that you're doing what you can each day to climb a little bit further out of that mentality where you've been stuck so long, that label. I was in an RDAP class, not an RDAP class, a TDAP class. So after you finish RDAP, while you're in the halfway house, you continue to take RDAP. Well, we had somebody from the BOP that came down to kind of check in on what we were doing and just sit in, monitor, basically do an evaluation. And it was a black guy. And there was this other guy in the RDAP class, this kid Croson, who was just, just like me, he was just in the class, but he's always going to the race card. Black people in the world can't get this, can't get that, da-da-da-da-da. And Croson made the statement saying, if I walk into a nice building and I go get in the elevator, all the white people scatter. But if you look at how Croson's dressed, his pants hanging down, real baggy clothes, got gold on his face. But the guy that came down from the BOP, who came down to monitor and evaluate, was a black guy, but this black guy's dressed up in a shirt and tie. And as soon as Croson said that, the black guy said to Croson, he goes, if I went in the elevator, do you think people would scatter? And he goes, well, no, you're dressed in a shirt and tie. There you go. It's not because you're black or because you're Puerto Rican or any other color. It's because you're repressing yourself and you're making up excuses saying it's your skin color when really it's what you're not comfortable going out of your comfort zone. So if you've always been, street level, gang banging, slinging drugs, gun running, whatever it is, if that's been your entire life, it's easy to say, well, whoever's holding you down, whether it be the white man or whoever's holding you down. It's hard to say, what happens if I go change my appearance, go out into the world? How will society view me then? If I go put on a shirt and tie and go get dressed up, you dress to impress. You dress for the occasion. No one's saying go get dressed up to go play basketball. If you're going to play basketball, wear what you want. But if you're going for a job interview and you're trying to take yourself out of that lifestyle because you no longer want to be repressed, you got to be willing to make changes. We all do. No matter what it is, you got to be willing to adapt to your environment. And if you're not willing to adapt, chances are you're going to make excuses for why you're not progressing in life. And that's for anybody. I've seen plenty of white people, Spanish people, black people. But right now the media is all on this, this kick right now where the media is really all over the place and you don't know what to fucking think when you turn on the news, you don't know what angle they're going at. And it's the media is there for ratings. They want to promote their TV shows. They want you to watch so whatever they think we like to hear, whatever buttons they think they can push, they're going to fucking push them regardless of what they really think. So, white privilege, black privilege, it's all the fucking same. When people try to make it about race, come the fuck on. This shit happened so long ago that we can't allow something that happened so long ago. Honestly, when I was growing up as a kid, in high school, in elementary school, in middle school, I did not see that black generation then complaining about equality and not being able to do this, not being able to do that, like the black generation does now. It seems like it's become more of an issue now than it was 20 years ago. And I have a feeling it has a lot to do with the media and the way they blow things out of proportion. Cops, there's no doubt cops are out there shooting people. They got body cams on. But that shit's been going on forever, and it's not just the white cops shooting the black kids or the black cops shooting the white kids. It's just cops in general shooting people in general. But we can all agree that it seems to be blown out of proportion more when it's a certain instance. And when you allow that kind of stuff to rule everything, you stop seeing the real issue at hand and you start focusing on what's easy, to jump on that fucking bandwagon and not even know what the fuck you're talking about. That's the problem. That's my problem. And didn't expect the video to take that turn today. But I'll tell you, I've got friends and honestly, I made friends while I was in a halfway house where I could call, if I was in any kind of trouble, I could call Norteños, I could call Serranos, I could call GDs. These are all different from Spanish gangs to black gangs. I've got respect with them all because I don't play that fucking game. I'm not going to go in there and say what you want to hear. I'm not going to get involved in your fucking racist politics and say you're right and you're wrong and yes, black lives do matter or white lives do matter. It's like, when is this going to end? When is this whole race card media presentation fucking what is it? It's like a PowerPoint. Every time the news comes on, it's like a PowerPoint presentation where they want to make this big giant deal out of something. It's like a little kid. When you see a little kid hurt his knee, or he falls and trips, and he doesn't start crying. He looks at you first, or she looks at you. And if you go, oh my God, babe, are you okay? They start crying because you made a big deal about it. But if they fall and trip and you're like, fucking get up and rub that shit off and keep on going. And usually the kid forgets all about it and he's on his way. The media plays us just like that. And if you don't see it, you're trying not to see it. You're looking the other direction because you want to complain and bitch and cry about how shit's not fair. Get up and do something about it. Don't just go on Facebook and get all gangster typing with your fingers and saying how fucked up shit is on. Go out and do something. Voice your opinion. Not on Facebook where it doesn't matter. You're talking to a bunch of other fucking people that don't care, really. They're on Facebook, and the minute they're done, they're back to watching some shitty reality TV, doing something that's meaningless or mindless. You walk around with all these sheeple where they just want to follow somebody in a direction. They don't even know where the fuck they're going, and then they all walk off the cliff and want to know what happened. How much Spanish did you actually learn in Spanish classes? They had some pretty intense Spanish 1. They had Spanish 1, Spanish 2, may have had a Spanish 3. It just wasn't for me. I lost interest in it real fast. I really just didn't care. But I saw a lot of guys that have never spoke a word of Spanish that were walking around the compound practicing the Spanish that they were learning. And they were learning Spanish. There was no question. There was books. There was homework. I mean, there was a lot going on. But with RDAP and everything else, that was just one more task that I didn't have really the time to take on with everything else that I was already working on. So you can definitely learn different languages in prison depending where you go. Spanish is probably going to be in every single prison, and they usually have different levels of what type of Spanish that you will be learning. But Billy, I'd love to see you do a video, man. I'd love to see you do a video on what prison was like, how it's different for mediums and pens versus camps and lows. Or maybe one day you and I do a collab video at the same time and we kind of talk about the differences and, what your biggest concern was walking out onto the yard, where my biggest concern was, am I going to get one of the decent basketballs, or am I going to get a shitty basketball if I don't get there in time? I'm self-taught. Goal is to come out with... Look, Juan, if you pick up on self-taught Spanish, you'll be able to kill it in there with an actual Spanish teacher. And it'll probably be a prison inmate teaching it, but you'll be surprised on the ability and the quality that these guys have. Dan, I love you, bro, but politics is useless for us. We are prison bound. I'm leaving my Republican voter card at home. Yeah, when you're in prison, you can't engage in politics. Not to say it's not going to happen. There's going to be some point where you're stating your opinion, but you just got to realize if you start allowing yourself to become to being offended, that's when you got to reel it in and go, okay, look, I'm in an environment where there's no YouTube. There's no Google. There's no fact checking on anything. People are going to spit out all kinds of stuff and say it's a fact. And there's really, other than you writing a letter home or asking somebody to Google something for you and send it back, there's no way to really fact check, even if you know you're right. And it could be like, let's say you're in real estate and you know the ins and outs of real estate, of buying, selling houses. You know that. And then you hear somebody else talking about real estate and they're saying stuff that's completely inaccurate, and you feel like you want to correct them, but you really can't. Because even if you're right, they don't know that. The people listening to them don't know that. You just got to know your place in there and realize that pick and choose your battles wisely, because most battles are not worth fighting over in there. Point blank. Billy's channel is going to be called No Filter Gomez. No, you don't have, most of the classes, Juan, you don't pay anything for them. They're all just classes that are ran by the BOP. It's all funded through the BOP. So no, you don't pay anything. The books and anything like that, you just got to return them when you're done. Now there's supplies you can buy, like if you want to buy, calculators and things like that off commissary, you can buy that stuff. But as far as to take the Spanish class itself, there's nothing that you're required to buy. No. A lot of people buy the Spanish English dictionaries just to help them while they're learning. Or you can have your family mail you one in, whatever, but you can buy them on commissary, or you can have your family send you one in. Can you walk around nude in prison? Brian, I hope that's a joke. You know, it's not like, I mean, technically, I guess you could, but you'd be sending off a real odd vibe, and it would probably be an invitation to the wrong people if you decided to walk around prison nude. But technically, no, you can't. You can't even walk around in your boxers because there's female staff that will come around doing count time. And I can tell you, if you were caught nude outside of like the bathroom and a female saw you, you're probably fucked. You're probably going to get a shot. They're probably going to, you know, she could say that you were doing it on purpose. But no, you can't walk around nude, nor are you probably going to want to. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys in prison that would want to walk around nude. There was a couple of times where I'd go to the bathroom in my boxers late at night just because I didn't want to get up and get dressed. But it was always taking a chance because if a female guard happened to come through and I was in my boxers, however she wants to interpret that, she could interpret that. Some female guards might enjoy seeing that and just keep going. Some female guards might take offense to it. But you're really not supposed to walk around with your shirt off too much inside the unit. Can you even cut sleeves off your shirt? No altering clothing. Like I had prison shorts that I bought, like basketball shorts, and they didn't have pockets. I didn't realize there was two different kinds of shorts, some with pockets, some without pockets. I bought these mesh basketball shorts. It didn't have pockets, but I paid somebody, I think it was like $3, and he made me pockets into my shorts. I mean, they looked professional. I could have gotten in trouble for that, for altering the clothing. So yeah, you're not allowed to alter anything. You can't cut sleeves off. Not to say people don't. You know, if you're buying your own clothes off commissary and you cut the sleeves off, may not be the end of the world. But if you get caught altering the prison clothes that they issue you, that could be pretty serious for you, as far as just like fucking with you and taking away good time or taking away commissary or just, you know, making your life a little bit of a living hell for the moment. So yeah, but you can buy tank tops. You know, you can buy, like, for going out and working out in, you can buy tank tops or to sleep in. You can buy shorts, you know, so there's not a whole lot of altering needed. But I had a lot of my clothes altered. Like, I had a pair of sweatpants that just didn't fit. They were super long, so a guy would alter them up for me, hemmed them up, and they looked brand new. Like, you'd never know he touched them. I got them to this day. I've got a lot of stuff that I kept from prison, as you guys know, because I've showcased it on some of my videos. I need to break out all of the old pictures and one day take you guys through, take you down memory lane. Just reading some of these messages real quick. So yeah, guys, so the fear of federal prison, it's a real fear. There's no question. We're all going to fear it till we get there. But I can tell you, if you're going to a camp or a low, almost immediately getting there, fear and anxiety, it all kind of just like goes away. Almost immediately. Within your first 72 hours, you're going to feel a million times better than you probably felt in several months. Just because you're there now. You can see it, you can touch it, you can smell it, and it's not that bad. If you've got a little bit of money coming in, if you have no money for commissary, that can make for a rough prison sentence. Just because even though they feed you, you do get, I mean, I don't want to say you get enough food, but they feed you. You know, you get your 3 meals a day. But if you don't have money for commissary, those in-between meal times when people are in the unit cooking and they're making all these desserts or they're, you know, whatever they're eating, you watch, they're drinking a soda, they're eating a bag of chips, they're eating some cookies, they're making pizzas, they're making burritos, they're making cheesecakes, and you've got nothing in your locker, that can become frustrating because that builds, like, out of boredom, people will eat, just like a lot of us do now. When you don't have anything, it sucks, you know. And I was fortunate enough to have commissary the whole time I was in prison, but I saw guys without it, and it was pretty heartbreaking to see how this would affect their mentality. How much would you take in cash? I spent about $6,000 in 13 months, but that was for me and for Shelly. Shelly was in prison for 8 of my 13 months. So for 13 months for me and for 8 months for Shelly, I went through about $6,000, maybe $7,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. That was between commissary, email, and phone. So between those things, I spent about $6,000. crying inside camp. I worry I'm going to break down. What happens? I never went to a camp. I was at the low, and I definitely saw people break down at the low. It happens. People snap. People, they get bad news. People, somebody's parent dies or something happens. A guy, I remember one guy, and he was I would consider him like, use the word hard. Like he never really showed emotion. He was always pretty hard, pretty tough persona. And then one day, we were in a RDAP class, and he was sitting across from me, but facing me. Because the group was split up like half the unit on this side, half the unit on this side, and then each half is facing each other. Well, I'm sitting here, and he was sitting here, and I look over at him, and I just see tears streaming down his face. He found out his wife of like 14 years or whatever decided to leave him for another guy, and he broke down. Usually you'll get support. People aren't going to make fun. They're not going to tease you. They're going to come check on you. What's up? Now, if you're just like, and don't take this the wrong way, but if you're just bitching up every day and you're just crying for nothing, like, well, what's wrong? Oh, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. I mean, you got guys that are down a really long time, so it's hard for them to have sympathy for you. So if you do break down in prison, make up a backstory to why you decided to have a fallen out cry. I saw some people that just couldn't do the time. And this was not an environment that you needed to be worried about. They just couldn't do time, period. They literally stay in their bunk all day, moping around, look like fucking white as a ghost because they never got out in the sun. And if they had to go outside, they'd go find somewhere and sit in one spot and just real sad, moping around. Like it doesn't do you any good to do that. And you try to reach out to somebody and pull them out of that funk they're in. But you can only try so hard to help somebody. If they're not willing to accept it or at some point come around, you got to stop trying because you can't make somebody do something. And how much effort are you going to waste on somebody that's not willing to be receptive at all? How much would you let someone pay you? How much is your freedom worth? Lawyers say, more time, less money, less assets. I don't follow, Juan. If you can ask that question one more time in a little paragraph there, how much would I let someone pay me? Pay me for what? How much is your freedom worth? My lawyer says more time, less money. Less assets confiscated, more time. I mean, are you talking about paying your way out of going to prison? It does happen. The head guy in my case, the head financier of the whole entire pain clinic, who was the brains behind the whole operation, didn't get a day in jail, got straight probation. But yeah, so basically, you just got to realize that don't allow your fear of the unknown to overwhelm and consume you. If you don't know, you got to ask somebody, and you got to learn. You got to figure it out what it is you do not know. Yeah, Billy. You don't got to ask me, Billy. This isn't raise your hand time. Billy's all professional over there. Do you mind if I ask him? Fire away, Billy. Release the filter. Filter has been taken away. Now, of course you can, bro. Anybody in here can say whatever the fuck they want to say as long as you're being respectful to an extent. I don't care if you guys want to get engaged and talk a little shit with each other, but as long as you're being respectful of everybody, I don't care what you guys say. I'll let you guys say whatever it is. My lawyer says I could spend more time and have less assets seized, or I could spend more time and have more assets seized. What do you think the prison time is worth? I don't know, man, because that's an opinion. When we found out that one of the people in my case was getting probation, my attorney and I drafted up a letter to the prosecutors asking, basically, what's the price? What's the price I got to pay to get probation? And there was no price. U.S. prosecutors point blank says it doesn't exist. We don't want anything from you. We don't want money from you. You're going to prison. I mean, there was no negotiating with a dollar amount. So, we tried. We tried to play that card, and they didn't want to hear it. So, I don't know how true that is. I mean, I see a lot of guys. I've got a client right now that so far they've taken 3 of his houses, and each house is well over $1 million. So it's several $1 million in homes, assets, cars, and everything. Overall, they've already taken about $10 or $15 million. And supposedly he's supposed to get some of it back because his portion of the conspiracy is not equal to what they've taken. Now, the whole conspiracy in totality is more than what they've taken, but his portion, I think, is like 33% or something like that he's responsible for. They've already taken 33%, and he's still looking at a decent shit load of time. So I don't know. Would you trade $50K for 6 months? No. Knowing what I know now, if someone said go to prison for 6 months or pay $50K, I'll go to prison. Because it's not the end of the world. And if it's an environment like I went into, I would rather do the time. Now, if someone said you got to go live in the pen or pay 50 grand, now I'm afraid of the pen. I don't know anything about the pen. I would probably rather pay the 50 grand. But going to a camp or a low, I would not pay $50,000 to get away from 6 months. I know everybody in the room probably says they would do that, but you also haven't been there yet. You don't realize. It's like there's a lot of people in here that would say right now they would rather go fight for a couple of years in the armed forces on the front line, dodging bullets, than go to prison. That's because you are associating to prison to something so horrible that you have no idea what you're talking about. It's an irrational thought. I had the same thought, so I know where you are, so I can't pick on you too bad. $100,000 in a minimum for 30. Man, anything more than $5,000, bro, I'm not paying. I'm not giving them none of my money. They can put me back in for 6 months, 10 months. Look, my 13 months fucking went by so fast. And even if I had done the whole time, I'd already be out. I wouldn't drop that money. The only money that the BOP is getting from me is the money that I'm putting on my books and my phone and my food. They're not getting another dime out of me. Billy, I think what it is it's different when they haven't been there yet, because their association to prison is fucking hell. It's like the worst place on earth in their mind. They don't realize that they're going to get through it and they're going to come out a better person for it. So until they go through that, anybody would spend that amount of money. Why would somebody spend 15, 20 grand on a prison consultant after they just spent $500,000 on a federal attorney? It's because that's how bad they do not want to go to prison. And I get that nobody wants to go and you want to have the best chance possible to not go. But trust me, you all should think about that question right now. Think about if you had 50 to 100 grand to spend and not go to prison. If the judge said, give me 50 grand right now and you won't go to prison. Ask yourself that same question the day you get out of prison and say, would you have spent the 50 grand now, knowing what you know now? You probably wouldn't, unless you go to a violent place. These are the choices my lawyers are talking about. I mean, that's crazy, Juan. I don't know. I mean, maybe your attorneys can pull some strings like that. I'll call you tomorrow and you and I will talk a little bit about that, because it sounds a little out there to me, but so far your whole case has been pretty crazy. You're in one hell of a odd case. You're one of the interesting clients. So I'm definitely going to call you tomorrow and talk about that a little bit. They're saying I can plead to this and give up apartments, or plead to this and keep apartments. The feds want their assets. There's no question about that. They want things. And it's dirty that they're even allowed to do that, because to me, that's so fucked up. It's so fucked up that, the more you have, the better your outcome can be. It really is a fucked up situation. It makes you want to just be like, fuck it, give me the time, because I don't want you fucking pricks to get a thing from me. It's a dirty, dirty, dirty game. It's a dirty game. The way the system works. You know, what's up, John? John got a little anxiety today. I saw your text message, buddy. I'm hoping you didn't get some bad news. I'm hoping you just had maybe an anxiety attack hit you. It's extortion. It definitely is extortion. If you and I were to do that, you would get another charge. It's like bookmaking. It's like anything else. It's fucking extortion to the fullest. But it is what it is. And there's nothing we can do about it. Not a thing. You got news today, John? Is that what you're saying? Or you just had an anxiety attack? I'm voting for the anxiety attack without any additional news. And we're about an hour in, so it's time to start wrapping this bad boy up. My shirts will be ready very, very soon. And for those of you that want one, I will send you one, and you can wear it to the gym. Just anxiety. My lawyer heard back. Oh, your lawyer did. Okay. So if you want, I got to make one phone call to Jay. And then after that, I can give you a call if you want to talk for a few minutes. Oh, no news yet, but they're still working on case. Okay. And I know, look, we've all gone through this. When you don't hear anything for, several weeks to a couple of months, your mind starts to go, I hope it's just going away. And just so you guys know, that's usually not the case. They're just working on a bunch of cases at the same time. As it circles back around, they put some effort into it, some words, something goes out on the wire, attorney hears something, you get a little information just to remind you that it's still going. This might be part of the game that they play to keep you on your toes, to keep you guessing, keep you confused. So we don't know. But it all sucks. Anxiety is the mother effer of the federal prison pretrial services section of what goes on and what doesn't go on. So does anybody have anything else that they want to ask before we wrap this up on fear of federal prison? And when I say fear of federal prison, I'm mostly talking about what are your fears of getting ready to go into federal prison? What's your biggest fear? And if I didn't touch on that tonight, let me know and I will. And if you watch this video at a later date after the live stream and you've got a question that we didn't answer, that's what the comments are for. As most of you notice, I respond to the comments. I respond to emails. I respond to text messages. Speaking of, make sure you text the word YouTube to 35074 to receive updates, notifications of all of the awesomeness that might be coming your way in the very near future. I've been telling you guys for a while that I plan on doing a video with Joe from After Prison Show, but I have not heard from him in like 2 weeks now, so I'm not sure what time he's on or what he's doing right now. But, maybe Joe will reach out to me. Maybe he won't, but I hope he does. Other than that, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I hope you guys liked tonight's video. I hope it was helpful for you. For those of you getting ready to go to federal prison, make sure if you've got questions, you reach out to me and talk to me. You guys definitely have been, so I appreciate that because that helps you and that helps me. So I will see you guys Saturday. We'll try to do something light on Saturday, something upbeat, get you guys in that mood to go out and do something fun with your family after the video Saturday. So until then, I love every single one of you. I'm RDAPdan. Try to stay out of trouble. Don't do anything you shouldn't do. Make sure you pass your UAs and prepare. All right, guys, RDAPdan. Talk to you soon. Peace.